Hi everyone, this is Sue Gordon and this is our first project on social media policy. And I just wanted to do a quick overview of how I'm going to be presenting my information. Because I work at a library, things are quite different than they would be in a school setting. So I wound up interviewing the Director of Public Marketing as well as going to the American Library Association website and finding out what they have to say about privacy and social media. So in order to do this, I emailed with the Director of Marketing, and her name is Hala Sinkowitz, and I asked her the basic questions that were given in the guidelines for this project. The main one was, what is the social media policy for our library? Does it vary for children and adults? And I also wanted to know if there is a standard form that anyone needs to sign in order to be released and let their pictures be released for any kind of use in publications. And her response was, and I quote, "The image release printed in our guide covers more than just social media, but it does apply to social media and is the same for all ages." So basically, there is no release form. There is a very small blurb in our program guide. It's right on the inside of our first page, and it basically is very short and sweet and says, all library visitors permit the library to take photos and videos and to use these images in future library publications and promotions in print and online. So this little tiny blurb on the bottom of our program guide is basically what she's saying is all that we need to cover our butts if we wanted to use anyone's likeness or image. I was really kind of surprised by that, especially for children, that just by being there and participating in a program, and it is posted in the library, that the library now has permission to use your images in any kind of social media setting. She also has said that we have a more complete social media policy on our website, and it was approved by the board in 2011, which really is pretty outdated, honestly. So I think that's something that they might need to work on. It is on the Schaumburg Library website on schaumburglibrary.org/about/policies/social media. And it mainly addresses the way that patrons interact with our social media. So the next question that I asked her was about staff, and if staff was encouraged or discouraged to use social media to promote library programs. I noticed that a lot of libraries in the area are using not just Facebook, but Twitter and Instagram. And I was surprised to find out that our library is not utilizing every platform, or at least they're not using it very often, because just since I started using it for the class, I have not seen very many posts from my own library. I've seen a lot from a lot of the other local libraries, and I've been very impressed. I actually follow them now, and I'm so impressed by what they put out every day about all their programming. So I asked her if the staff is encouraged to use it to promote our own programs, and are there any do's and don'ts? And her response was not surprising. She basically said that while we don't openly encourage staff to use their personal social media accounts to promote the library, it's great when they do, and many staff members tend to do so. So if we're excited about a program, we can tweet about it, or we'll put it on Facebook just as an advertisement. Just kind of as a courtesy, let our friends know, like, we've got this great, really cool virtual reality system that we've got set up, come out to the programming, just to help it along. But they do not talk to us about it, and they don't readily encourage us to do it. The other thing that she said was that the social media policy notes that the library does not endorse, monitor, or review personal social media activity of employees, and since they don't really have the authority to do that or instruct us how to use our own social media accounts, they pretty much just stay away from it. They let the staff decide if and when that they would like to promote library activities. So I can completely understand that. I am a little surprised that they don't have a staff guideline that they've given us, or an email sent out saying, hey, you guys, if you want to talk about it, we have this really cool new children's program coming out, or we have this really great new 3D printer, and we want teens to come out and try it. So I think that's a little bit frustrating and a little behind the times, because a lot of the programs that we have are really phenomenal, and we don't have a lot of participation. And I think it goes back to just not getting the word out enough. So my next question was about the release form, which we already discussed, and it also had to do with whether or not patrons can submit pictures that they take themselves or of their family or children at our library programs in order to be used in our advertising. And she said, again, our release that's in the program guide is all we need. However, if they want to take a quote from someone, they do let the person know how it's going to be used, and also to let them know when it should be published in case they want to get to see it themselves. As far as people submitting pictures, it happens very rarely. However, I think it might more with staff, just because we are at the programs. And just for an example, the cover of this past program guide, this beautiful little dog, has the Schaumburg Library bandana on, and this dog actually belongs to one of our IT guys, and who happens to work at the branch where I work. And he had this picture and submitted it to the department and said, hey, I got this really cool picture of my dog, if you ever want to use it. And they surprised him and put it on the cover of the program guide. So that was really kind of cool and really fun, because now she's a little celebrity. The last question was just if there was anything else that she could tell me about our social media policy. So she's really the only person handling it. And she said there really wasn't much else to say. It's covered in our little program guide. It's covered through the ALA guidelines, and that's basically what they follow. And it's really up to them, as the staff at the library, as the person in charge, to decide what to put out, what to promote, and how often. And with only one person doing that, I feel like that is part of the problem. There's just not enough time in the day, and she's got a lot of other work to do besides just handling the social media. So if I were to change something, it would be to get some staff to help her, and someone else who, maybe a younger person, who knows the system, knows how to keep it short and sweet and exciting, and really promote the heck out of our programs, because people are really missing out on some great stuff. And I think it's really a shame. So that was pretty much it of my interview with Hollis. And the next thing we're going to talk about real briefly is what the ALA has to say about social media and privacy. So the final thing I want to discuss briefly is what the American Library Association has to say about social media guidelines. And in order to do that, I looked up the ALA website, which can be found at ala.org. And if you want the specific link, it's ala.org/advocacy/intfreedom/social media guidelines. So I was able to pull up these documents, and I will show them very briefly because I don't expect you to read them all. I just wanted to talk about a few things that are highlighted that stood out to me as I read them myself. One of them was having it be a designated public forum, and how libraries are under no legal obligation to participate in social media, nor are they required to host public conversations. But once a public library or publicly funded academic library does invite conversation, it may be considered to have established a designated public forum and is subject to the strictures of the First Amendment. So they really want it to be clear that while we don't have to participate, we really need to be careful in the way we participate. And since social media is here to stay, I think it's important for all libraries to be aware of what the guidelines are and what the American Library Association is suggesting of how we handle it. One of the other things that I noted, if you don't mind, I'll turn the page, It says to avoid having a library's platform hijacked by content unrelated to the library mission, including commercial or simply irrelevant speech, libraries should carefully and narrowly craft their public declarations of purpose and acceptable behavior as tied to the mission of the library. So to that, it sounds to me that they are saying be very careful what you say. And once you put it out there, you're opening up a dialogue. And there's always people that can kind of take things either out of context or have some kind of beef with whatever is being said if they had a bad experience at a program, and negative comments can be made in response to something that is posted on social media. So we all really do need to be careful and professional, and that does make sense. The purpose and scope that they talked about was how the library needs to post information related to its services and operations for its constituents and does not seek out or respond to comments. So even though people can make a comment, the library is encouraged not to respond to them, which seems a bit odd because I know in our library we do have a suggestion box, and we do have times when a patron does have something that they want to get off their chest, whether it's a valid complaint or not, and they are absolutely responded to. Any of those comment cards or phone calls are then recorded and on paper, not physically recorded, and they are sent up the chain of command to the director, and they are also presented and read at library board meetings. So the library is accountable, and they do take things seriously. So I was a little bit surprised in the way that that was worded. The next thing, it says, the audience. As a best practice, the library should identify its intended audience. An academic library may limit its intended audience to faculty, staff, administrators, and alumni. It can be expanded outside into the community. And then they talk about staff responsibilities and how all library staff responsible for contributions to library media platforms should be thoroughly trained, not only in best practices for individual social media platforms, but in the mission, values, and positions that the library and its governing body or parent institution take. So this one, to me, seemed a little vague, seeing as how pretty much 90% of library staff do use and utilize social media. And they're saying here that anyone responsible for contributions need to be thoroughly trained and reminded of the mission statement. So to me, I think that's something that should be, again, like I said earlier, should be addressed in staff meetings, in the corporate emails, just reminders that if we are going to promote things, the right way to do it, and how to promote them, and what's coming up, and why we should promote them. So I think that one is an interesting one that they put in there. So basically, in conclusion, I found that the library has great motivation and great incentives to use social media more, but that isn't always the case. I think that staffing can be an issue, understanding the technology and teaching all the staff how to use it properly would really be beneficial in order to promote and increase attendance at our programs. The one final thing that I did find in our program guide that I was really kind of excited about was that we do have a social media class, that one right there, for teens and up, and it's in the computer lab under technology programs, and it's there to teach them about how to use social media. And if we're going to be training our patrons and encouraging them to use it, because again, it is here to stay, they really should know how to do it and do it safely. I think the staff should also know how to do it as well. So thank you for listening. I apologize for the sound. It is 6 degrees outside, and I'm sure you could hear that my heater kept turning on while I was trying to talk. But I appreciate your attention, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.